Hey, it's Mark Lowe with Kentucky Tennessee Research. Finally getting around to this, talking about mistakes. And that was me, directional. And really looking at the concept of how do we resolve these issues. Do I go this way? Do I go that way? Knowing where we are is really important, seriously important. And so I think as we look at that, helps us with the issue of, what do we do next? What do we do in regard to that? So let me think about that. So it is a mistake to neglect the geographic understanding of where you are. Imagine that the wind blowing, maybe it's not important to know where we are, but it's important to know north, south, east, and west, where things are. And neglecting that can be a serious problem. One of the things that I know that we have to do in regard to research is understanding where do we go, what's next. And it's important that I can remember as a young man, I used to travel with some folks, and there was a little town in that place, and they talked about Big A, and I couldn't remember whether it was capital A, uppercase A. It was Big A, and I'm like, if there's Big A, where's little A? The name of a place is important. It can be rock, big rock, little rock, rocky hill, flat rock. Every place in a location is important. It's important that you listen, that we learn, and we determine what really is the important issue. Okay? We can use maps. They help us to understand our location, surroundings, on our phone. That's how we get to places today. We put in an address and we go to it. But that's not necessarily everything that we can do in regard to looking it back to 100 years, 250 years, whatever the time. Particularly as we're looking back into the time of the Revolution, we need to know what's going on in the area. Well, we've always had maps that's been created to change those geographic boundaries and elements. And those do change over time. And it's something that we do need to pay attention to and look at and begin to identify those things. But what I'm saying is that we've got to we've got to pay attention to where what is. What is that? And how do people in that area recognize it? Lack of knowledge about an area is really a problem. So like here, I share this map a lot. You see Franklin. That's Franklin County, Tennessee. And really not too far to the north of Franklin County is the town of Franklin, Tennessee, in Williamson County. And then up here where I live, right on the Kentucky border, there is a Franklin, Kentucky. That's a town. There also is, probably 200 miles away, where Frankfort is located, the county of Frankfort, or Franklin. So any of those could be referred to in a location about us understanding when somebody's referring to passing through or that sort of thing. Knowledge about an area is dependent upon the location and the time and when people are talking about it. And it's important for us to look at that. So, for example, this is a record from Lyon County, Kentucky, okay, which is up above where the Tennessee-Kentucky rivers, Lyon County. And so knowing what records exist in the time period is important. Knowing what to look for in the type of record, and actually knowing how they surveyed their land. If this is a settlement, an estate settlement for Mr. Jarrett, then we need to know where it is to know how things are done. What are the laws in that area? And how can we follow up on local information? Listening to the locations, the county names, the towns. If you ever watch, if a new weather person or anybody who's calling locations, picking out the towns and the names, the way they call them in that location is different because we say them. They are a result of our cultural areas from where the towns are. And so that actually tells us something. So I'm going to suggest that right off the bat, if you haven't done it, go to Family Search and go to the main page of the wiki. You can go anywhere in the world, and you can discover wherever you want to. But then pick a continent, and for the sake of showing you the example, I'm going to pick North America, okay? And basically, I'm going to just click on that on the area that says North America, and then the United States, And I'm going to narrow down to a state, in this case Tennessee, where I'm located. And there is a wiki page for Tennessee. It's going to talk about online records, online research, and how to get started. More importantly, there's a map of all the counties, and then there's a link to all the county pieces of information and record types that are available where there are wiki topics just over here to the right. And those are usually very beneficial. It's a good place to get started, to get a feel for the location and not neglect those little things that will help us or often cause us to stumble when we don't hear them or pay attention to them correctly. Okay? It's also important to remember that locations help us narrow down where our ancestors might live. This one is actually mine, John B. Martin. There were two in Barron County. One was born in Kentucky, one was born in South Carolina. They lived on the east and the west side of the county. That's important to know. One lived right on the Metcalfe County line almost. One lived near Rocky Hill. Okay. Well, knowing that helps me as a researcher to begin to determine where I need to look for records and to distinguish the difference, because there are still two men there with records, and I have to distinguish them as to where they live to make sure that I'm looking at the right one. And I have another case with the Smith family where there are two guys in Kentucky named Godfrey Smith. One is located up in Greenup County, up in the eastern part of the state. One is located down in Warren County, kind of in the south central part of the state. But they're two different people. And they're not the same person. And often people will cross over their records. That's because we don't understand locations. Sometimes we have to take off the name and look at where the people live very specifically. Okay? There's a reason that location is important. Who, what, when, all those tie in together. But knowing which one is most important is the one thing that we've got to make a difference, that we follow. And it is a big mistake to neglect geographic research. So, what you're going to promise me to do is you will not follow my mistakes of ignoring stuff. You're going to go look and you're going to say, where is that? Is that north, south, east, or west? If you're enjoying these things, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and help follow along. And be careful that you don't make the same mistakes, because you will look like this.